This is about the money. It's about who gets it at the end of all of this. So all I'm simply saying is that as you go about your discussions, don't be naive. Don't ignore the lessons of history. And the sad reality of history is that those who were colonizers did not set out to colonize us because they said, it's a good thing to be an Englishman, or to be a German, or to be a Spaniard. It was really about pursuing their economic self-interest. Because if you go right back and you study the history of economic thought, going back to when colonial expansion started in the 1600s, 1400s, mercantilism was the dominant economic idea, and hence the Spanish obsession with the search for gold, because it was felt at the time, the more gold you had and the more precious metals you had, the more prosperous your country would be. So that is what it was about. So then, why is there this great interest in tax reform coming out of, say, Europe, for example, and the developed countries as manifested through the OECD and the documents? So again, I approach it from the standpoint of history and a bit of sociology, because people just don't get up one morning and say, you know what, I think we need to do some reforming, because what exists is a terrible state, is in a terrible state. I want to make it better. It's the rare individual who does that. So I started to do some reflection on this. And I said, why would the OECD, certainly within the last 20 years, 1998, when they started speaking about harmful tax policies and harmful tax competition. So what you don't see in their literature, you have to look elsewhere to see what may be the motivation. So I decided now to do some digging. So could it be that declining birth rates and aging population with consequential increased healthcare costs and attendant expenditures be the driving reasons behind this focus on taxation? Because remember now, taxation is about the state collecting money. That's what it's about. Once persons are alive, there is a cost, hence the expression, cost of living. And if there is declining birth rates and an increasingly aging population, then it necessarily follows that over time, income tax levied on individuals will decline. It follows rationally. You have less human beings to tax, then you'll have to get the money from somewhere. And so this has implications for taxation. So I decided to look at birth rates. I would suggest that you do the same. And what have we found? The greatest decline is in Europe. So in France, for example, which is regarded as the most fertile country in Europe, the average birth rate is 1.92 live births per woman. So in 2017, this is in a population of 67 million. 67 million. In 2017, only 767,000 babies were born. And then the average age at which the French woman has her first child has gone up to 30.6 years. So the average French woman is about 30.6 years when she has her first child. The data also tells me that France has 19.6% of its population greater than 65 years old, persons who have retired. So when you combine that now with declining birth rates, clearly there's a problem to solve. So even in Sweden, where we are told There are family policies that promote childbirth. There's even state-funded IVF treatment. Has a population of 10.2 million. The average live birth is 1.85 per woman in Sweden. In the United Kingdom, the live birth per woman was 1.79, which is in 2018. And so they had 657,076 live births in 2018. That was a 3.2% decline when compared to 2017, so in 1 year. Is a 3.2% decline in the live birth rate. In 2018, it's a 10% drop between 2012 and 2018. In Denmark, there were 65,000 live births in 2018. The data also tells us that at that rate, that current birth rate is not sufficient to maintain the current Danish population of 5.8 million. Iceland, only 40 years ago, had a fertility rate of 2.9 live births per woman. Not only is there a decline in birth rate, which is 1.74, but people are living longer. So the net effect in the case of Iceland is that its population is not growing at all. And it is projected that as the fertility rates fall, the population will actually reduce in size. And this is in a population of 355,000. So the implications of a low fertility rate are many. The most obvious one is that the young population or the working population that is taxable by way of income tax, as distinct from sales or consumption tax, which can spread across the age groups, will decrease. And given sufficient time, the revenue from income tax on individuals will decline, and perhaps from sales tax as well. The second obvious effect, as the aging population increases, it will become increasingly difficult to care for them. And then the third obvious effect is the need for a labor force. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. This declining fertility rate and the women having children late has resulted in a number of positive things. So for example, women are able to pursue careers and enjoy freedom, and all of those are positive things, and they are to be applauded. So I am not here saying women must go back to having 8 and 9 children, as certainly in Jamaica, when I was a child growing up in the village, that was a really common occurrence. I'm not saying we must go back to those days, but we can't ignore the facts. So given this context of declining birth rate, aging population, declining numbers on which personal income tax can be imposed, a solution has to be found to get more revenue. So where are you going to get it from? Companies. There's really no other source. So if you don't have enough human beings to tax, then you have to get it from the juridical persons. And so now, when we hear of the language of equitable sharing, concern about revenue streams in developing countries should not cause us to ignore the demographic data and the need for the revenue. So I am not accusing these persons of being selfish or greedy. What I'm saying is, they have their self-interest which they are pursuing. And we must recognize that we too have our own self-interest which we need to pursue. So until these stark realities began to take effect in some OECD countries, I haven't been able to find, I won't say it doesn't exist, I have not been able to find great evidence or significant evidence of interest in tax reform on the global scale. So the literature doesn't tell me that in the 1950s and 60s there was a zeal for tax reform globally. It just happens to have coincided. I'm not even saying there's a cause and effect. Maybe it's just purely coincidental. But as a former prosecutor, I'm not a great believer in coincidences. So, they are driven by self-interest. Nothing is wrong with that. And so the documents that I have read tell us that they had to engage developing countries. So I could not help but note that the impetus for global tax reform is not being driven by the United Nations, but by the OECD, which has its own agenda. So one of the documents I looked at said, at the G20's request, the OECD is leading the development of a strategy to address base erosion and profit shifting. The Development Working Group has asked the OECD to draw together the experience of developing countries and international organizations in the report on the main sources of BEPS in developing countries and how, it's an important words now, how these relate to the OECD G20 BEPS action plan. In other words, pursuing their self-interest, which they're entitled to do, they develop their action plan. Having developed their action plan, they now say, you know what? There's some people, other persons in the world, developing countries. Let us go and find out what they are interested in, and then we'll take it into account. So, it is not being driven then, largely by what is in the interest of developing countries, but in the interest of the OECD and G20. And to the extent that the interest of developing countries coincide with the OECD and G20 action plan, then I suppose there can be an accommodation worked out. Now, this is